there, jerk faces. It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events, esoteric ideas, as well as our movie review. And continuing our theme for this month of plot twist, we'll be reviewing the movie Freaks from 1932. But to do that with me is, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see you, Andy.
It's good to see you.
Another
too.
glorious day. So excited. I look forward to this every single week.
As do I.
It's a nice reprieve from some of the craziness that I deal with on a daily basis. So it's always good to. We don't always get to see each other in person, Andy, but I always get to see you every week, so that makes me very happy.
Yeah. Well, I blame your wife, so.
Well, she's gonna be off doing stuff. She's got some big stuff coming up, so she'll be pretty busy coming up here starting next week. So that'll be more time for you to just kind of come over and enjoy things in peace.
Perhaps. But in the meantime, we got a show to do, so let's get to it. Anything interesting happened to you this past week?
Been just upgrading some furniture at my place. Got a new dining room set that my wife wanted. It was actually not that expensive. To be honest, I thought I was going to end up spending a lot more money than I did. And I'm finishing up assembling everything, so that I'll have that all finished by Sunday. My TV broke down after 10 years, so I'm like, but thankfully,
that's what I miss about the old television sets. Dude, they last forever. Dude, I remember my parents' old RCA from probably even older than me, from the 80s, worked all the way up until they got it the latest in projection, those monster Sony projection screens. Yeah. They had that up until the end of the 90s.
Yeah,
20 years.
Yeah, it was just the TV that I had lasted quite a while. I had that for 12 years, and I got it for free, so I can't really complain about that. But it finally kind of crapped out on me, but by a stroke of luck, Costco had a great deal on a TV, and so I upgraded, and I didn't spend that much money, so I'm okay with that. But then it turns out the TV was not big enough for my TV stand, so I had to buy a new TV stand. So that wasn't too much money either. So thankfully, I had been kind of upgrading the apartment right now, so everything's kind of a little bit all over the place. But once I get all that cleared out, all the old stuff cleared out, everything will look kind of nice and neat, and it'll look great. So I'm looking forward to how it'll all look. But I got the TV just in time to watch football this weekend, so that was nice. There were some great football games that happened this weekend, and I'm actually kind of surprised. I've been kind of down on the current era of sports, but I think football has kind of learned its lesson a little bit, where it's just focused on just the game and not all the other BS. It's because
but they're still subversive in their messaging. Because if you notice at the end at the end zones.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah,
they're still subversive, and the little messaging on the back of their helmets. They're still woke. They're just not as overt with it.
Yeah, it's I don't like that, but at the same time, at least it's not as just cringe-inducing as it was.
Yeah. I don't know if they're airing it, or when they do the national anthem, if they're still doing the quote-unquote black national anthem. If they're still doing that, then it's just they're never...
I'll find out during the Super Bowl. I haven't seen it yet, so
that's what I'm saying. Because a lot of times, the the Sunday Monday night football games that they broadcast, they don't really show the singing of the national anthem, and so these kind of get into like the kickoff, but they don't show like the.
That's a little bit crazy too, to be honest. I'm kind of shocked that they don't really show that anymore. But yeah, well, we'll find out in the Super Bowl this year if they do that
But
again.
then
Oh
they still might be trying to cover their asses by still performing it, but just not broadcasting it.
Yeah, that's probably what's going on. But I remember last year at the Super Bowl, oh my God, we were all like,
Well,
"Oh
I mean,
God."
Yeah, but your last year your experience was compounded by horrible hosting.
But yeah, but no, but like we were all like rolling our eyes, like really.
I know,
do
but
the
it's just
black
like
night?
it's just like but your experience is just like a little bit more infuriating.
Oh, that
because of
that will
the
not,
the bullshittery that happened.
especially if my team is in the Super Bowl this year, the Bills, if they make it,
Do they have
I
a
will
shot?
not have.
I haven't really been following.
They have,
I've been catching games here and there, but
yeah, they have a real good shot actually. Especially if they win this weekend against Kansas City, which has kind of been the bane of their existence in the playoffs the last few years. If they can beat them. And if by some chance Baltimore loses, we definitely have a shot at making it to the Super Bowl. It's like that'd be the first time since '94, and I really hope that they can make the Super Bowl and finally win the goddamn thing. It's just like I've been it's been hard to being a Bills fan, but even greater is the Detroit Lions, who have been dog shit for I don't know 70 years, are not only in the playoffs, but they look like they have a legitimate shot. So Dan the Man, our good friend, he's happy because he's a Lions fan. So it's kind of interesting that the Lions are they look really good. But I'm just saying, like, overall, like, football has kind of started to maybe like winning me back a little bit. I find it at least a little bit more enjoyable than some of the others. My main sport, which is NASCAR, has been just nearly unwatchable right now, to be honest. And a lot of the bullshit that goes on there, I'm like,
that's why I'm glad I was never that invested into sports, because now, I mean, who could have foreseen the turn that professional sports would make? But yeah, I mean, in that regard, I'm glad I was never really invested in sports like that, because then I don't have my heart broken.
See, this is part of the reason why I even got into like this arena anyways, because all right, now these fuckers are encroaching on like my territory, like where the things I enjoy. And there's always been some of that kind of progressive ridiculousness like in film and television, so you kind of expect it there. But when I came into sports, I'm like, oh my God, like now it's like now you're
the progressive, or let's call it what it is. It's the communist infiltration of the American industries is it's a slow one.
Yeah.
To be sure. I mean, I think like the last. I think maybe the last great like legitimately like conservative directors was Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah.
Because he did Ben-Hur, and he did what I feel is the respectful thing, and have Jesus in your movie, but not like show his face.
Yeah. I mean, and he like Ben-Hur is was not or the Ten Commandments, is one of the greatest films ever made. And you also have like he did the silent version, but then he remade it back in the in the 50s, which has been a yearly classic that everyone watches.
Yeah, do you remember
Um,
around Easter when they would play the Ten Commandments, and at least ABC used to, but they would play like
yeah,
some like
yearly film
Easter
on television.
equivalent thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I remember it was like it was a while ago, but it was like a mixed medium sort of thing. So it was like claymation and like animation of the Easter story.
I always so what I always remembered is there was usually a double feature around like kind of like with
Right. No,
Passover
that's
and
exactly what I'm
Easter.
referring.
What they would do, what I remember and was I remember watching a double feature of the Ten Commandments, and then Ben Hur came on after that. So I mean, it was a whole
Oh.
day of. I mean,
Well,
it's an
maybe
8 hour
maybe
long
towards like
film.
towards the end of the '90s and like into the aughts. But yeah, I remember. I don't remember the Ben Hur, but I do remember the Ten Commandments, and then they would play kind of like the Easter story or the Jesus, basically the Jesus story, or the God, more
Yeah.
like one like the Gospels practically. But it was like a mixed medium. It was like claymation and then also animation. Um,
Real, I don't remember that. I guess maybe I did watch it. I just don't remember it.
yeah, I do. Yeah, I do remember that being a thing for a good long while. Until, yeah, I mean, probably a little bit more recently, where they omit the Easter story, but like still kind of go with the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, I need to get they have a nice uh quality physical edition of both Ben Hur and the Ten
Mm-hmm.
Commandments that I kind of want to pick up. Uh, I kind of want to get the original Ten Commandments too, the silent version. I think that would be that because I don't think did we review the Ten Commandments? I think we did, didn't we? I know we
Yeah,
did.
I think we did, and I think it was
I
that first year where we celebrated in October because we did Charlton Heston month.
Charlton Heston month. That's right. That is right. That's why we did Ben Hur. We did the Ten
Mm-hmm.
Commandments. I think we did Soylent Green and Omega Man.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh, I think there was 5 Tuesdays that month because I think we did Planet of the Apes as well.
Mm.
Yeah, because we did like a fiver on for our boy Charlton
Mm-hmm.
Heston. But yeah, I want to pick up. I want to see if they have a physical copy of the silent version of the Ten Commandments from the 20s, which is also done by DeMille. I think that would be pretty
Mm.
fun to check out because I haven't seen that one yet. You know, kind of like when Hitchcock redid The Man Who Knew Too Much. But yeah, so I got but like football's kind of won me back a little bit. I I had a lot of fun watching football with Dan last Sunday. Um, but then yeah, just stuff's going on here, changing furniture around, uh, getting ready to come up on a vacation break. So things are good, man. I got some cool pickups that I actually picked up pretty inexpensively. Everything was on sale. I got a 60th anniversary of the Bridge on the River Kwai. Uh, great Alec Guinness film. I picked up I think it's the 35th anniversary or 40th anniversary of Flash Gordon, a movie I've never seen, but I've always wanted to. Um, just because I just recently watched like Highlander for the first time,
Mm.
and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like Queen did the soundtrack to Flash Gordon
Yeah.
too, and it's like, and let me tell you, Highlander is fucking amazing. I
Flash
love that.
on.
I have that song on my playlist. It's so good. And then another film I've heard a lot about that people's like, you gotta watch this. It's really good. I got The Last Starfighter.
Ooh, yeah.
Is it good?
Oh no,
I've
I've never
never
seen it
seen it.
either, but I think I saw like bits, but I've never seen like the entire thing.
I
Um,
see. Okay,
oh, and
but yeah,
that Easter special that they used to broadcast on TV. I guess it goes by a bunch of different titles. The Miracle Maker, the Story of Jesus, Jesus, the Miracle Maker, or Miracle Maker, the Story of Jesus.
All those titles sound very familiar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I probably have seen that.
Yeah, again, it's like it's one of those things where it's like a mix of claymation and then also traditional animation.
Yeah, because we would always go to my grandmother's house on Easter, so that's when I would remember. Like, we'd be there all day, so I remember going over to my grandmother's house and watching, the Ten Commandments, and I remember one year they had Ben Hur on too afterwards, which is great. I was like, oh man, these are I like both these films. So,
Word.
so like my parents and my grandmother were off doing stuff. I was watching those two movies. So, but yeah, no. Other than that, like week's been pretty normal. Just a lot of work. That's all. But overall, things are great, man. How about on you? What are you doing?
Not a whole lot. What did I do over the weekend? Oh, just usual stuff. It's homeless outreach. Actually, the volunteers at my church, we got a special appreciation luncheon. So that was nice, being recognized and everything. Monday I made a sale at work. So that was cool.
Oh yeah, all right.
And it was it was good because initially the customer was looking to buy an e-bike that was like about $1,000, but just before he pulled the trigger, he saw another one. He's like, oh, what's that one? And it was like similar size and specs, and so he tried out that one and he really enjoyed that one, and that actually ended up being a much more expensive e-bike. So more
Nice.
more commission for me.
Dang, yeah. Did you kind of pull a pool hall of junkies and like tell them where you bought his shoes like on hand?
No. I mean, I just I just took them. I know. I can tell you where you got your shoes.
Got them on your feet.
But no. He just came in. And, he called and asked if we had e-bikes that could that are powerful enough to pull a kid carrier. One of those little trailer things for your kids. And I mean, yes, because the technology now has gotten to the point where it wouldn't really be a problem, and also like especially like a baby or a small like toddler or whatever is not going to be a hard thing to pull.
Right.
Yeah, I showed him one e-bike that was fairly powerful, and was just under $1,000, and was foldable, so he didn't have to invest too much into like getting a separate bike rack for to carry to transport it around, and he was just about ready to pull the trigger, and then he saw this more expensive e-bike by at least $800 or $700 more. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he tried that one out, and he ended up loving that one too. That one, and it was more comfortable for him. So he's like, yeah, I want this one instead. So it's like, you gotta love those type of customers where it's like, yeah, I like this one, but this one was better, so I'm just gonna go all in on this one. No fuss, no muss.
Boom.
And so sold them on that. And as a little thank you, also threw in a helmet. Of course, we offer that. We offer a free helmet, with the caveat of like, they leave us a genuine review. And so
yeah.
And that program has been pretty good. I've actually been shouted out a couple of times on the reviews. So
hey, it's all right.
So I mean, it doesn't translate to more money, but
I'm gonna have to try one of those e-bikes out. I've been kind of curious about those.
Yeah, they're super fun.
Yeah, they look like they're like kind of fun to ride around on.
Just no, never mind. I'm just gonna shut my mouth. Anyways, other than that, no. Oh yeah, just a lot of family time. My cousin came over with her kid, and um, that was fun. So
All right.
yeah, just a good old quality time with Uncle Andy.
All right. That's awesome, man.
All right. Anyways, let's get into our top. Well, for the time being, topic. For
You know what,
discussion.
Andy? I think I remembered the topic that I wanted to talk
All right.
about, and this is something that I think happened just before the year ended last year, and I don't remember if you've heard this story, but U.S. Steel was bought by
That's
Japan.
right. I did hear that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that last week, but like it was like we had so many other things that we
Right.
had to talk about.
We
I
were
was
just
like,
coming back, and so there was a bunch of stuff, and priority and everything.
yeah, that's what I was wanting to talk about.
Okay.
So see, I knew I would remember once we got
Right.
going, once I got my brain
Yeah.
moving.
That's all it took.
You know,
That's all it took. But okay, since you already brought it up, let's talk about it.
All the details are completely out yet on this story. I haven't heard anything since the sale went through, but U.S. Steel, which obviously is one of our, at least for a long time, was one of our biggest industries in the United States, and we were at one point the exporter of steel for the world. That I think has not been the case within like the last 20 years or so, and actually it's been a somewhat dying industry, at least in the United States. Whereas like foreign made steel has gone up, especially like over in China, which that's another whole story. But essentially, they were shutting down all the steel plants, all that, and it seemingly, I don't know, like it to me seems out of nowhere that Japan swoops in and they spend a lot of money. I think they spent $6 billion to buy U.S. Steel.
I heard, if I'm remembering correctly, I heard they paid more than what they were, or U.S. Steel was actually evaluated at.
Right. They and it looks like and they're not like taking it over to Japan. They're not like doing it in Japan. They're utilizing our facilities here, and they are essentially just buying the factories. And I mean, I assume that there's going to be some change as far as personnel goes, but it looks like they're not going to just oust everybody. But I was saying, it's like, why? I don't know how I feel about that exactly.
Oh yeah, there. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I wonder if we're gonna have a gung ho kind of situation. For those of you who don't know, Gung Ho is a movie from the 1980s, starring Michael Keaton, where an American car manufacturer is bought out by the Japanese.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
There's a cult following behind it, but.
Okay, well, I mean, we might have to cover it then, especially with this story.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just so funny because it's like, I heard that story and then immediately I kind of had like a little bit of what you were suffering because you were trying to think of this thing before the show and then what was it? You said that you thought of it like while watching a movie or something, but then you forgot about it. And I guess I too, like when I first heard about the sale of U.S. Steel to the Japanese or to a Japanese company, I immediately thought of that old movie Gung Ho.
Yeah, I actually remember like why I was thinking about it is because the Buffalo Bills were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was like,
Steelers.
I leaned over to I leaned over to Dan. It's like, Or are they gonna have like a samurai-based costume next
I know
year
the Pittsburgh
because Japan
Samurais.
bought U.S. Steel? Yeah,
Or no, because
but
the Pirates are more dishonorable, so I guess it'd have to be the Pittsburgh Ronins.
Pittsburgh
Yeah, for those
Ronins,
of you who
yeah.
don't know, like samurai lore, uh, a samurai that loses its master is called a Ronin.
Yep.
And usually, if you're a
Uh,
Ronin, you did something you allowed your master to die, or you did something dishonorable to then your master to disown you. So
yeah,
that's how the analogies line up one to one for that. But
right. But
yeah,
yeah, so
I did hear about that. Yeah, it's just actually, I'm not well versed on a lot of U.S. based businesses and everything, but just like it's like another one bites the dust. It's just like
well, I'm wondering too. Like there's a few things because I'm not sure how to think about it yet, or like it just because one we don't have a whole bunch of details as to what happened. I think it's weird that that a foreign country is buying one of our staple trades that we have, and you never know like what could happen in the future. Like what happens if we end up in a war with Japan again. Who knows? Not that like that's gonna happen anytime soon. I don't think, but you never know what could happen in the
yeah. Or
future.
I mean, or
Uh,
what is it? Or if what if the Japanese company mismanage it, and then the Chinese come and then they buy it from them.
that's the other thing too, and but one of what seems like a positive so far is that they, uh, based off like the contract of the sale, is like they're not only buying U.S. Steel, but they're utilizing our facilities. They are employing American workers. It looks like, or keeping the employers the employees that are already there working. And it looks like they are also investing into that community as
Right.
well.
So they're not
So
just absconding with it back to Japan, or neither are they just picking it for parts.
yeah, and so like that seems like a positive too. Like so, I don't want to like say like, oh, this is like the worst thing to ever happen.
Right.
I mean, I would feel like I'd be much more nervous if it was like a Chinese company that came in and did
Yeah, of
this, because
course.
then it's like, well, yeah. Um,
If it's gonna be slant
so
eyes, it might as well be slant eyes that we like.
yeah,
And I can say that joke because I am a slant eye.
yes. Okay, Charlie Chan. All right, it's
You're making
it's
too
like
much noise.
yeah, but yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, just like what you thought about it, or I know you had heard about it, but yeah, just it seems like there's like this fly by night thing that, oh yeah, by the way, Japan bought U.S. Steel for $6 billion, and then it was just like it was done. That was the I saw that news story. I'm like, wait, what? It's like that you gave that all of 30 seconds. I think that seems like a much bigger news story, guys, on the news.
Yeah, absolutely. Again,
So I had to find like articles on it, and they delved a little deeper into it. But man, like yeah, the news, like it was almost like one of those like fluff pieces at the end of before they close out the night. It's like, oh yeah, and by the way, Japan bought U.S. Steel for $6 billion. Good night, guys.
like you stay classy, San Diego.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, no, this is it's just another one of I would dare say a critical infrastructure uh, industry. Again, being bought out by a foreign country. I mean, yeah, it's not the government of Japan buying uh, U.S. Steel.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
it's
Japanese
another
company.
it's another independent company in Japan buying um, U.S. Steel, and yeah, it's a friendlier nation. Uh, but it's again, it just signals another, I would say, another like nail in the coffin in terms of U.S. Manufacturing power. Um, I've said this again. We've mentioned this time and time again about like late stage empire. Using the Roman Empire as an analogy, but yeah, it is because what is it? I know, it's just this isn't analogous, but there's models of Rome, right? Of like Rome proper, and then like kind of like the surrounding areas that they depict in models. And if you look at it,
Right.
it's all urban, right? There's no farmland, anywhere close to the Roman capital.
It's like Coruscant, essentially.
Exactly. And so you kind of see that yeah, the Romans, they outsourced everything. They outsourced their agriculture to Egypt. They outsourced the manufacturing to Greece, and on and on and on. Everything came to Rome, but nothing ever went out of Rome, except for like their military. Um, and so that's a bad position to be in. Um,
Yeah.
if you're like this huge hegemonic empire, because if what if a rival power came in and kicked your dick in the dirt, essentially, um, and they cut off
Yeah.
your trade routes. You're asked out.
Yep.
If they cut off trade routes from Egypt to Rome, there goes your food supply. What is it? They cut off the food the trade route from Rome to Greece. There goes your manufacturing. And on and on and
Yeah.
on and
Yeah.
on. And I mean, we ourselves are have had a little taste of that just recently, just 4 short years ago, with the lockdowns. Now whether or not you think that you know this was intentional by the Chinese or not, or it was purely an accident, or it was like the powers the powers that shouldn't be trying to exert more force. Regardless of that, it's if you don't see the dangers, or the parallels with the Roman Empire and their outsourcing of their manufacturing of their production to outside of their immediate area, and how dangerous that is, then you clearly haven't been paying attention the last 4 years. I mean, our
Yeah. Well,
medicine
and
is made completely by China. All pretty much everything. All our little electronic doodads and things are made in China.
that's
Um,
I was actually just going to bring that up because Taiwan is the leading exporter of like the computer
right.
chips, and so if we don't do anything about that, like there's always that potential that like China's like, well, we're just going to take Taiwan back, like, and they've threatened that so many times, and uh, it's like, well, why is it that we can't be like a producer of that of those things for like our own computers and stuff? If these are a key thing to have, like, I mean, it's so. I'm not saying that like we can't get that stuff from Taiwan, but like, shouldn't we like maybe see about like uh, getting some of those people over here and kind of like working building up our industry in this country to build those computer chips that are key to survival in the technological age, and that way we don't have to solely rely on Taiwan, and then in reality Taiwan ceases to be like a source of like
Right.
where
Yeah.
China.
Taiwan no longer has like disproportionate value, because it's like
Right.
because then it's like, it's like, oh, America, you need us because we make you the chips for everything that runs your society. But then but if we have like even like a small percentage of where we make the chips here locally in the United States, then we can just be like, It's like, yeah, we could take some stuff from Taiwan, but we're making stuff for ourselves too, and so they become less of an important piece on the chessboard that is global politics.
And it potentially like can maybe help stop a war in a sense, because then we don't have to come like defend Taiwan out of
Right,
nowhere, like when China attacks them.
right.
It's just
What was I saying? Yeah, and so if we stop being a producer, then we're basically cutting off the branch that we're sitting on, because if we are solely dependent on somewhere for our for our products, for our our for God's sakes, our clothing, our tennis shoes, our
I mean,
medicines, our
yeah, we talked
computers,
about like
it's our
fertilizer.
fertilizer. Yeah, Ukraine was where we were getting, or Russia was where we were getting our fertilizer from. um I think what is it? I think in Arkansas recent. Oh, and also, for those people who freak out about, like, you know, slave labor and abhorrent workplace
Conditions.
conditions, with, like, child slavery or whatever. It's like, if we do it here, then you're guaranteeing that the person who is putting together your iPhone, putting together your clothing, putting together your whatever, is being protected by laws and being compensated reasonably.
With yeah, and that they're not being whipped by the cat of nine tails, and
Exactly. Yeah.
you
So
know
yeah. So, like, if we have things under our own roofs, then we can dictate, like, oh, you have these people can't be mistreated. You can't, like, have them running. You can't be having them working 12-hour shifts. With only like a 30-minute break. So
yeah.
for those people who are more conscious of kind of the means of how their doodads and clothing are made, then I would think they would want that sort of thing. So then they could say, like, oh yeah, well, at least we're our workers making our clothing or making our shoes or making our computer chips are not living off of like $3 a day or whatever.
Yeah,
So I
so
mean, like, having manufacturing in or just locally, is a huge boom. It's a net positive.
yeah, I hope we maybe get back to that at some point, but I think that cat's out. That toothpaste is out of
Oh
the
yeah.
tube. Uh, Unfortunately, I don't see unless there's some like sort of like drastic change in how all that works, and where there's incentive for people to manufacture things within our country, and like we start being a producer of our own goods, and not I'm not saying like that everything like foreign made, or we're getting stuff from like other places is a bad
Oh, right. Yeah.
thing. I mean, I do like the aspect of like there is more access to more things, and people are more willing to just because have more knowledge about the world, other countries, all that stuff. But
Right, but
the fact that
yeah, but the thing is, it'll keep it competitive. So, like, yeah, China
yeah,
or whatever, China or some Southeast Asian country can still make your iPhones, but if we're making
yeah,
iPhones here too, then it'll drive the price down, and then you won't have like twelve
well,
hundred
that's
twelve hundred dollars for an iPhone.
exactly that's the thing that's I'm talking is but by us producing stuff as well, yeah, it produces more competition. It's not so monopolistic, and you're not spending as much money,
Right, and
and that
it also will help with inflation, because then, like, if you have to pay someone a living wage, then your dollar will go for more, because like, it'll because the price of things will go down, the which will then cause other things to go down, and then which will allow people to have their dollar will be able to buy more.
yeah, which is better for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, because right now, like the only people who are being helped are like the super super wealthy who like hate. anyone else.
Right, exactly.
And
Yeah, I mean, people. Yeah, like what was that quote from John Rockefeller? The only sin is competition.
yeah, well, and then you look at like a movie like It's a Wonderful Life, like with Mr. Potter, like when Black Black Monday happened with the Great Depression, the stock market was crashing. It's like, Potter's not selling; he's buying because he knows that he's gonna fuck all you guys over. He's pretty much like he's gonna fuck all you guys
Right. Because
over.
yeah, because like the yeah,
And
because the what is it? Like a lot of people they like panic. They panic sell. Yeah,
he's
they
not.
panic sell, and so um, they try to
And
divest from like a position, but that's actually helping the other guy because then they'll come in and gobble up, everything at a discount, and then when the market normalizes again, then they're the ones holding all the cards.
that whole other part, yeah, it's which is that's a reality that happens, and that's what's happening right now with all the inflation. Is like, guess who's not panicking? People who have a lot of money, and that's what happened during uh, COVID. Is all these big companies triple, like sometimes doubled or tripled in size and made a shit ton of money. And while their competition was going out of business or growing
Or
smaller,
they be or
they
yeah
grew
or
way
became
more.
stagnated because they weren't allowed to
Yeah,
grow.
right.
Yeah. I mean, just think about it. Like, what, like, think about it. Your local Walmart didn't shut down. Your
Target
local
didn't
big
shut down.
box store didn't shut down. Why was that?
Amazon
But
didn't.
the mom and pop shop, you know, on your block, they shut down.
Yeah,
I wonder why. Because maybe it was artificial scarcity.
yeah. But yeah, with this acquisition, I don't know exactly what to think about it. I think we'll see how things play out, but um, could be good, could be bad, could be just we'll have to wait and see.
I mean,
We
yeah,
might have,
right, yeah. I mean, as much as like doom and gloom that we're being, yeah, it could be a good thing or it could be a neutral thing.
yeah, it makes
We
no
we just have to
difference.
see. I mean, there's not enough information out there right now to whether to to come down on either side of saying whether if it's good or bad or neutral. So we'll just have to wait for more information before we can make that assessment.
But yeah, just wanted to get your opinion on that,
Okay.
Andy. So, see, glad I got my brain working and I remembered. I knew it was something that had to do with Japan. I just didn't know what it was. Was I watching Japanese film? No,
Well,
that's not what it was.
well, you said that you did watch Japanese film.
Well, I have been doing that, but that's not it. I was like, no, that's not what I was thinking. That's not
Oh, that wasn't
what
the inception point.
no, it was like, and once we got going, it was like, Japanese steel. That's the or Japan buying U.S.
Right.
steel. That's what was going on. Cool.
All
But yeah, we can hit up our next topic.
right, for sure. But yeah. Apparently, recently there've been a lot of uh, shows going out, particularly out of Disney. What is it like? She-Hulk and there's a Star Wars show in there. No.
What
Oh yeah, there was the
Star
there
Wars
was
movie?
the well, Star Trek too. Star Trek Discovery specifically. Strange New Worlds as well. I mean, I haven't watched Strange New World, but just like from what I'm seeing, it's just Star Trek made by people who hate Star Trek.
Why? It's just like the
Because it's like I see clips, and it's like, and it seems like the way they talk to each other, like on a naval vessel. And I mean, yeah, I know Starfleet's not a military organization, but they borrow a lot from naval from militaristic organizations,
yeah. I
particularly
mean,
the command
there's a
structure. And so, but then
Right.
I watched like clips how like they interact or how um, subordinates speak to commanding officers. I'm just like, and it's like an office comedy, like with like the snappy attitude or like the kind of the insubordinate like rolling of the eyes because like they're ordered to do something, or it's like hey like, or someone gives them an order and they like go hey not before I have my coffee, and it's just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like you didn't even see that, you didn't see that crap in original Trek. Like you for sure
No,
didn't see it in Next Gen or
any of the
DS9
'90s.
or Voyager.
No,
None of the previous iterations of Star Trek did you have like this flippant attitude, this flippant behavior from your like subordinates towards their superiors.
it's
it was very
making
professional, and like they're highly competent at what they were doing.
it because you are asking for the best people, going out and doing something that no one's ever done before, and you don't have time to fuck around. Oh, not before I've had my coffee. Like, no one gives a shit about, like, it's not about it was never about personal endeavors. It was about, like, pushing mankind forward and making the idea of Star Trek was having a positive outlook on the future and like what man can achieve. That was the whole idea that Gene Roddenberry had. That's why, like, unlike most futuristic movies or shows, which are more dystopian and how they go more the George Orwell or uh, route, where it's like it's just everyone's gonna get fucked over, which is probably more accurate. But Gene Roddenberry had a very positive outlook on things, and he was excited like of what mankind could achieve, and so he was put that in his vision for Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes it cool and unique. And yes, it does deal with whatever humanity was dealing at that
Right. Yeah. I mean,
time.
of course. Yeah. Of course. Like the Cold War, and the Federation was the America, and the Klingons were the Russians.
Of
Um,
course. But that doesn't but still that was the whole point of Star Trek. And you have these people who are doing Star Trek now who, one, have probably never watched the original series or like could give a shit about the original series.
right. I mean,
And there's
yeah.
like, we're just gonna
It's like I said, on the outset, it's this current iteration of Star Trek is Star Trek made by people who hate Star Trek.
they're
I mean, they're
they're
brazen
they're
with it. I
going.
mean, recently, what is it? Paramount put out some sort of image, celebrating, Star Trek. But one, they had like these, notable captains or characters on it, and one one captain was left off that image, and you can't, to me, you cannot convince me that it was mere oversight. It was intentional.
Oh yeah,
And that is James T. Kirk. They left off the captain of captains.
of
Oh,
course they
they
did.
had they had Picard, they had Cisco, they had Janeway, they had the new Pike, which, okay, fine. They had fucking Seven of Nine on there, and then they had like one of the fucking annoying animated character from like the Lower Deck cartoon. But again, and then and then they had the only two characters from OT Trek, uh, or TOS Trek they had were Uhura and Spock, but
But
no
no
Kirk.
Kirk. That makes no
Makes no
fucking
fucking
sense to
sense.
me.
Particularly if you have they had freaking Scott Bakula as Captain Archer. They had Ben Sisko from DS9.
I totally forgot that it was Scott Bakula. It was a Star Trek captain. That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, the Enterprise eventually kind of found its feet. It's unfortunate that they pulled the plug early, but But yeah, how can you celebrate Star Trek and not have the captain on your promotional material?
Yeah, it's bullshit. And that's what I'm telling you. These people don't know Star Trek. They don't like Star Trek, and they are Buffalo Bill, and they're gonna create a Star Trek skin to wear. But that's it. Like it's this fucked up version of like what Star Trek was meant to
Right.
be, and they don't understand it. And for me, this is where I talked about this in a past episode with you, but the franchise is gonna die at some point. I think like where people are getting tired of that because people like what was originally intended, and there have been good ideas that have been like the original series obviously is beloved.
Right.
Next Generation
Um,
beloved, and even like some of the '90s Star Treks. I mean, they ran for many seasons, and they're beloved. And I'm not as familiar with them, but I know that there's an audience for them.
Fuck yeah, DS9. All right, DS9. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I grew up Next Generation, and I eventually did get around to watching TOS, and I revere it for what it as the originator of Star Trek. But for me, DS9 is my Star Trek. I mean, I know it's and at the time DS9 was very controversial because it kind of stepped away from like the optimistic view of the future, and they
Yeah,
went to a little bit more into like politics, and and there was a war, during that series, but it's still Trek. Like you can say
yeah,
that, like, oh, it's too dark, it's too bleak, on like humanity's place in the universe as arbiters of peace or whatever, but it's like it's still Trek though. It still goes to that hopeful message that despite like because the enemy in the war is basically not literally, but a mirror universe version of the Federation. It's this enemy called the Dominion, and just like the Federation, how they go out, but and more peacefully, get more people to join their Federation. The Dominion, they go out and conquer by force, and forcefully bring people into their Federation. And
yeah,
so it's like, so it was a very good, it was like a good commentary about like, oh, what makes the Federation good and the Dominion evil. It's like they're mirrors for each other. One is just
yeah,
more uh, domination driven and conquering driven, and the other is more peaceable and like and like more peaceful and wishing to just for the betterment of everybody. But
yeah. But
again, it's
like what
still
I
Star Trek.
yeah, but like I said, those are good shows. They're
Hells yeah.
beloved. And what's happening now is that you have these companies who are buying up that uh, those franchises because Star Trek is a big name or Star Wars is a big name or whatever is a big name, and we're gonna use that. We're gonna promote it, and we're gonna do all this. And it's like we're gonna get all these people that we're gonna make all these new stories about it. And what they're doing is they are scooping out the innards of like what made the thing popular, and we're gonna wear the skin. But the people who are now involved with these projects, utilizing the name Star Trek, because the Star Trek fans, it has Star Trek on it, so they're gonna watch it and they're gonna like it, and then they watch it, it's like, what the fuck is this? And no one watches it, and they're tired of it,
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
and the
There has
franchise.
been a great, kind of a slow building backlash, um, particularly expressed in viewership. I mean, yeah, like the most like recently, like like with She-Hulk, or even like more recently with the Marvel show Echo, which that they have no faith in because they dumped all the episodes on one day. Because usually Disney Plus, they would
A couple
slow drip it,
episodes
right?
every
They'll slow drip it over,
yeah,
one a week, over 2 months. But this show, they knew that it was such a a dumpster fire that they just dropped all the episodes on one day. You know, and again,
That
it follows
and
the same formula of current age storytelling. It's like strong, empowered, woman who who also has like some sort of unique thing about them. They're like a minority, or they have like some sort of physical impediment. I think Echo is like an amputee, and she's deaf, but she's also a Native American.
oh, of course. So it's funny because the movie we're going to be talking about tonight actually is kind of is holds up a mirror to like this type of thing. Whereas like,
Oh
but
yeah,
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 like
absolutely. There's one thing in particular that I will highlight, but when we get to
yeah,
the review.
we'll talk about the freaks. But yeah, it's like we're just throwing things at like, oh well, we gotta represent things, but without like actually thinking about like, well, does that actually make a good story, or is it just like trying to check a box? And most of storytelling nowadays is about checking a box.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's not about
yeah, South Park famously called it out in their Panderverse episodes. Kathleen Kennedy, like it's like put a chick in it, make her lame and gay.
yeah. I mean,
That's essentially
that's
what it
essentially
is.
what's happening, and that's why She-Hulk, after spending $250 million with a B,
Yes.
it's like, and you have like the main actors like, well, it looks like season 2 is unlikely to happen. It's like, yeah, no shit, because the show's like, I did not watch an episode, but like I saw all like the clips online and like all the social media engagement that people were having. It's like, this looks fucking awful,
Yeah.
and I had like no interest in
Mhm.
it. But even with that said, it's like no one watched it. That's the thing.
Mhm.
And what is happening is these big companies who are creating, you are buying up these franchises and doing all this stuff with it, is they're creating social media engagement. They're creating what they think is popularity. Oh well, if we get people arguing online about it and like or talking about it online and having this whole thing, and like we can create this community, and that means that people are watching it. In reality, what's happening is they are Bart Simpson, running for class president, and it's like just saying like whatever they need to say to get like the pats on the back and the thumbs up and the likes and the clicks on social media, but in reality, no one's going to actually vote for them, and like you might get like one or two, but like it's no one's voting for the show,
Right. I
and
mean,
you're spending this money
yeah, and
to
if their shows were as popular as they're trying to make out, then even I wouldn't consider myself a normie, but like our social media feeds will be lousy with all of these creators saying like how much they love these shows, and it's like, oh, I can't wait for the next episode, and you know the, you can tell genuine buzz from fake buzz, because
there's a
there's
lot
a
of
lot of
fake
fake buzz,
buzz.
because there's people who like who you don't even who you never heard of, like saying like how much, oh, I'm a super fan, and I can't wait for the next episode to drop. Oh, did you see what this crazy thing that happened in the episode? It's like it's so inauthentic that we know the difference. We can tell the difference. We can sniff out the bullshit. So it's like
Yeah.
and especially if they're parroting the talking points. If like they're supposedly an influencer or a super fan, and they go like, oh yeah, for like the Lord of the Rings thing, like the super fans are the supposed super fans, and like the lovers of the lore of Tolkien, but they parrot all of the talking points, talking about like representation and like, oh, strong empowered woman, and it's about we have to put our or a current context within the frame of the lore, and it's like no, no,
And guess who doesn't give a shit about those shows?
nobody.
Anybody.
Exactly. That's why nobody believed the supposed super fans, or when Amazon put out all that promotional material, with the videos of the super fans
How
and
funny
talking
did they
about like,
shit?
oh yeah, I think we have to talk about current day stuff with it, and use Lord of the Rings, to push our agendas or whatever, and just like no, 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 and that's why you had uh, the the quotation by Tolkien himself talking about like dark can't create, it could only mimic and destroy, and that's why and why
Yeah.
that went like more viral. That those were the actual
Yeah, that's
fans. Those were the actual people. Those are who actually enjoy the lore, who actually enjoy actual Lord of the Rings.
not only have they read the books, they've watched like
Right? They've read the books
they've
like
probably watched the
dozens of
animated
times.
movie,
They've read the similar. Yeah, yeah.
Dorian, yeah,
So yeah, so they are, and
and
they've read every single writing of J.R.R. Tolkien.
we, I haven't read those books in a while. I might have to go back and like because I'm not like I'm a huge fan, but I'm not those people who've read the books or the book like 100 times. Like there's
Yeah,
some people
I'll
who
even admit it myself. I've never read the books. All right, I just love the story. I just love the story that we got in the
I will say that Peter Jackson did a great job
right. Yeah,
of
and I'll
representing.
admit it. I'll full heartedly admit that I've never read the books, but I love what Peter Jackson did.
He did a
All right.
fantastic job. I'll just say that knowing that because I read the books long before the movies were made, and yeah, he did a great job. I'll just yeah, as someone who has read the books, he did a great job.
Right, and yeah, and this is me admitting that I've never read the books. All right, and I stand, and I'm not
And
claiming
no,
to be a super fan or a deep Tolkien, scholar or whatever. I just love what Peter Jackson did in Lord of the Rings, and think
yeah,
and Rob just vouching for what Peter Jackson did, being very true to the books. I can stand on my fandom of the movies.
yeah, the stuff that he took out from the book was not it like it didn't hinder the story. Like he told the story in its uh at the heart, like, and he took his time telling the story too, because these are not short
Right.
movies at all. These are long
Right,
epic
and yeah, and I
journeys that
mean,
you're
not
going
even
on.
just like talking about the theatrical cuts, because like, yeah, we go into the director's cut, then that's like
Then that's a
that's a
12-hour
12-hour journey.
journey. It is long. But yeah, but even then, like there's stuff that he did cut out that is like fun for the book, but you don't need it in
Right,
the movie. It's not like you're missing huge plot points or anything.
right,
And it was
yeah,
cast perfectly.
absolutely. Oh, thank God for who was it? Stuart Townsend? Yeah, Stuart Townsend, who was originally cast as Aragorn. Like he got into the makeup chair. He put on the chainmail, and the first scene as soon as like they were about to roll the cameras, he's like, you know what? I'm not right for this.
Oh man, that was a great choice. Like good on him because Vigo was
Yeah,
the guy.
seriously.
I mean, it's like, and Stuart Townsend is no slouch himself, but like it's just man, Vigo just knocked that shit out of
Yeah,
the
and I
park.
think yeah, because I think one thing Stuart Townsend was too young, and you know
Yes, yeah, wait,
he's just too
yeah,
young. I
that's
know
the
he was
problem.
like the up and comer, but yeah, he just wasn't right for the part. And thank God he had the sense to. Thank God he had like the integrity to be like, guys, I'm not right for this. You know.
I think everyone knew that they were creating magic for this, and it's like, hey, you know what? I don't want to mess this up. So why don't you get somebody that's like maybe get somebody different because I can't. I don't want to mess this up. And there's something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again,
There's
integrity.
something.
Yeah, because like he
It
could have,
it
yeah,
makes me
he
like
could have just gone on with it and been like, and forced himself, and just like pushed through or whatever, and like not done a good a job, and totally tanked the movie like for his own like selfish ambition. But so
yeah.
again, kudos to Stuart Townsend, who was just like, guys, I'm not him. I'm not him.
And it's like, man, this movie was great until like but man, you know, uh, Stuart Townsend ruined this. Is like terrible in that
Right?
role.
I mean, yeah, like
It's
if Stuart Townsend didn't have that vein of integrity in him, we might Lord of the Rings might have been ended up on one of like the worst, one of the worst, like the list of like worst, adaptations from a book.
yeah, who knows? And Viggo Mortensen might not have had the same career
Oh
that
yeah.
he's had because he was already a star, but like he became a superstar after like
Right. Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah. Viggo Mortensen. He was working. Yeah. Sure. And he does some like pretty big stuff. I mean, in like, yeah, Crimson
Crimson
Tide. Yeah.
Tide. He did a remake of Vanishing Point. Um, but then yeah, like he probably would have done like some other like kind of some of the smaller kind of the more avant-garde films that he's been doing. Like he did The Road like in 2009, and he's great in that. But yeah, like I'm really glad that he was Aragorn. He was perfect in that role. I mean, it just like when you as someone who's read the book and like my imagination, it's like that's who Aragorn looks like.
Yeah. So yeah, but to contrast that with the stuff that they're putting out now. I mean, like even like the announcement of like the Rey movie back at Celebration Day last Star Wars Celebration Day last year. It going over like a lead balloon, and then them having to scramble and just hurriedly put out there like, oh yeah, Jon Favreau's gonna come out and he's gonna do a Mandalorian movie, but because of the sabotage that occurred in the third season of Mandalorian, it's like no one's excited about Mandalorian.
No, no one.
Right?
It's like Kathleen Kennedy has kind of come in and just kind of fucked that whole thing up and
Yeah,
stirred
I
up a
mean,
lot of
for fuck's sake,
necessary
he
controversy.
got usurped. The character of the Mandalorian got usurped in his own show. All right, they fucking usurped the show from him. All right, it stopped being
Yeah,
about Din Djarin the Mandalorian, and then it became Bo-Katan the Mandalorian.
Bo-Katan show, and I'm not saying that like that. I like
Yeah, as
Bo-Katan.
a character,
She's a cool
I like
character,
Bo-Katan. She was very complex, like, especially like in the Clone Wars series. She was a very complex character. She was once a terrorist. She was with the bad guys. Going against her own
right?
sister. Because her sister was more of like the pacifist or the new Mandalorians as they're referred to, and like they're trying to discard their martial heritage, and kind of go down the path of pacifism or neutralism. But yeah, her sister was with essentially terrorists, and but then she learned like the error of her ways, and she tried to rally the Mandalorian, and then like towards the end, at the end of Clone Wars, she helped lead the siege of Mandalore, to try and reunite her people, which didn't, which we know doesn't end very well. But
Right.
yeah, like like if you did a separate show for Bo-Katan, I'd watch it.
Yeah, I'd
It.
watch that.
But don't fucking usurp the Din Djarin Mandalorian show, and make him a side character in his own fucking show.
that was here's the thing: the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian were
Yeah,
amazing,
particularly the end of season 2.
and
Oh my gosh.
oh, dude, and the fact that because Kathleen Kennedy was like barely, yeah, she was,
Right, she got distracted. She got
she had
distracted
a,
with
she had a,
Indy 5, and then also like some project that never even saw the light of day. But she got distracted.
she had a producer
Right.
credit, obviously, but then it's like, oh, this thing is popular, but it's not me that's making it popular. Well, I have to find that we can't have that, and that's when she started to get
Yeah,
involved
that's when it
and
starts sucking.
fucked it
And
up.
then that's when like Boba Fett fucking sucked.
Boba Fett got
Yeah,
fucked
Boba Fett got
over.
fucked over, and then Mandalorian got fucked over.
It's funny, like I don't know if you've been watching like Star Wars Theory channel lately, but he's been like just like going off on these people's like, this is not Star Wars. Like this it makes my job not fun. I love this franchise. It is so, there's so much there, like with all the books, the comics, and there was a time like where like even like we were finally getting like something with the Mandalorian, like there was because the movies were terrible, the
Yeah, the
Disney
Disney
films
Star
were
Wars.
terrible outside of maybe Rogue One, who I think he kind of agrees with there, like he actually does like Rogue One,
It's
and
serviceable.
it's I think it's pretty good. But yeah, it's just like, and it's like I don't have fun shitting on this stuff. But I'm also like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and like, just like be a, well, everything's great and you should love it too, and like you're crazy if you don't like it. It's like, no, I don't like it. If you like it, that's fine. I'm not gonna disparage you, but I'm, I don't like these, and I'm not having fun doing it. So I'm gonna go back to doing the channel the way that I like it. And if you people don't like it, that's fine. But I'm gonna talk about the stuff that I like about this franchise, and so I was like, that's refreshing, because it's like normally like you think that, oh well, I gotta just fillet Disney so that I can have, it's like more people will, I can kind of bring everybody in. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that, and I'm gonna talk about the things I like. I'm gonna talk about the things that I don't like, and he just says, like, he even says like, wait until like my fan film comes out, because it's gonna be way better than anything that Disney's putting out right now.
Yeah, I remember
You know what I'm saying?
like, he made no money on it, but he made a like a fan
He's
movie,
no, not only
and
not not making, he spent his own money
no, yeah, that's
making
what I
this
said.
thing.
Yeah, he spent his own money making a snippet of a fan movie that would that teased Mace Windu coming back. I was like, holy, and like,
Yeah,
what is it? And showcasing the inner turmoil of Vader, like how like he had secret desires of killing the Emperor.
I would love to see him work with like Dave Filoni and John Favreau, and like if there was ever a universe where Kathleen Kennedy would just be like, would go away, and like those three could work together, because that guy has good ideas, because that guy knows the franchise really well and cares about it just as much as Dave Filoni does, and you throw in John Favreau in the mix, they would make great magic together.
I don't know. I'm dubious of. I'm ambivalent towards Filoni.
Is he starting to like kind of turn on us now?
Well, I mean, something happened because like, dude, the last season of Mandalorian, dude, like, I mean, look, dude, I don't know if you knew, but like, Paz Vizsla, the big heavy Mandalorian that's always like at odds with Din Djarin, he was voiced by
Mm-hmm.
John Favreau.
Was
He
that
was
John?
voiced by
Oh,
John Favreau.
really?
Therefore, that was John Favreau's surrogate. That's his. That's like kind of his insert into the Mandalorian. But
Mm-hmm.
you saw the all of season 3, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What happens to that character? He gets killed
It's
off.
been a while since I watched.
Gets killed off.
Oh,
and I think that's symbolic. Like, why would Jon Favreau kill off his surrogate, his avatar?
Avatar.
And then
It's a good
all of a
question.
sudden, Dave Filoni, he gets free reign to make his Ahsoka TV show.
That's a good question. Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, that whole thing is like it's so messed up. Like when you have something that's successful and like actually really good, and then you get people who come in and they fuck it up.
Yeah, I mean,
But the thing is, like when I would hear like Dave Filoni talk about Star Wars, the guy knows what he's
right,
talking about, and he seems like he cares about like what it is.
right.
But I,
But yeah, I think
I
he
don't
made
know.
a deal with the devil. I think
You
so.
think so?
I mean, just like kind of like what we got in the Ahsoka TV show, and then all of a sudden, after that, you got the announcement that there's going to be an Ahsoka movie.
Oh my
And
god.
the fuckery that happened on the third season of Mandalorian, I think he made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Because
Not
I mean, again,
not
like, because I've been watching what is it, the Doomcock, DVD Overlord, and like he's been saying forever, or he's been asserting that through his network of spies and informants that the plan was always for uh, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to undo the Disney sequels through the Veil of the Force.
right. I remember that. I remember
Yeah,
hearing that.
but
Yeah.
but then when I mean I'm mixing franchises here, but when the Eye of Sauron saw that Mandalorian was being popular and that and they had nothing to do with it, that's when everything got fucked up. And
Yeah.
I think that's when Dave Filoni got approached and it's like, hey, you know that character Ahsoka that you love so much that you created, what if what if I gave you free reign to 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 make that show, and then also what if I gave you free reign to make a movie about her? It's like, but
Mm,
you gotta tank the Mandalorian.
damn. That would. I hope that's not the case,
But I
but
mean, with
fuck,
everything
man.
that went
That's
on, like how like everything happened, and then with like Jon Favreau killing his avatar in Mandalorian, I think it could be him signaling like this franchise is fucked. I'm out. And it's
yeah.
like yes. But yeah, anyway, but the takeaway is like people are starting to wake up. They're starting to see through things, and they're just not biting.
Yeah, and like these well Disney especially, but like a lot of these companies who are like trying to put out like this bullshit that like nobody wants and like they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on movies that no one has any interest in. Well, the big
Yeah.
franchise stuff, because I think there's like we expect something like a little bit different when you have like these like lower budget like avant-garde films. Like there's always going to be some. There was always even back going into like like the 60s and 70s there was always like some weird stuff that these independent projects that of crazy stuff that was happening and it's like oh well yeah okay make your movie cool and just make it and it would have a weird message or um and it either did well or it didn't and but nowadays the stakes are way fucking higher.
Right. Yeah. I
It's
mean
like now you
now, I mean, especially in the world of $1 billion openings,
yeah.
yeah, there's no more room for experimentation. There's no more room for risk taking. Um,
Well, let's make sure that we have some Pakistani lesbian woman to do our next Star Wars film. Okay, but has she directed a film before? Does she know anything about Star Wars? Does she have any sort of um, competence at all
Right. Yeah. Because
towards
yeah,
this? Well, that's not what matters. Like we want to make
make
sure
it
we have like
stick
the
a chick in
first
it, make it gay and
les
lame.
yeah, it's like,
But
but no, but we have the first lesbian Pakistani
to be
woman.
her lawyer for a second. The comments that she made were about a documentary that she made regarding this supposed alleged mistreatment of women in Pakistan. So I mean, I understand what in that context. I understand why she said, oh, I like to make men nervous, or I like to get in their faces and blah 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 blah. I understand that, but
well, in that case, I would check out her documentary. It might be interesting. Who knows?
Again, being her lawyer for just a second, like I understand why she would say those things, and I understand in Pakistan, that's a legitimate thing to be fighting for like.
I agree. I agree.
However, if that is her philosophy in all things, then I would fight her. I would, like, not physically, of course. I would resist anything that she puts out in the under the umbrella of Star Wars.
But doing like one big documentary does not mean that you are necessarily competent to do a blockbuster high budget
here's
film.
The thing, though, like, it could be argued that they're not even the ones in charge. I mean, kind of like that Chloe Zhao chick that did Eternals. Like she had no history. She had no background in big blockbuster things. She was known for her indie stuff, right? She never helmed a project to the scale of like a Marvel movie, but her name is still attached to it. So are they again, like to use your metaphor, are they just skin suiting these empowered female directors to just have their name on it, but then really like the Disney boards, or whoever is the malicious hand behind all of it, the one in control?
Well, if that's the case, like honestly, like if I don't really care how much you would pay me. It's like, dude, like you essentially you're putting my face out there for this movie, and like, yeah, I'm maybe putting it together, but the only person who's getting shit on is me. So what incentive do I have? It's like, and it's like, well, what if there was like another project that I know I could do? I might not get that again. I might not be able to get that opportunity because maybe that person, maybe she's a competent director. I don't know. I doubt it, but if that's the case, like she ends up.
But then again, no longer being her lawyer anymore. But yeah, her background is only in journalism and documentary filmmaking. So like, how does that make her qualified to do like these narrative epics? She's not. She's not qualified at all. And also, like, she never has worked on like these huge, grand like budgets before.
Yeah, the only person I know who has done like really well doing both documentaries and well, I mean, there's a couple, but like the one main guy that I know who's done really well in documentaries and like epic filmmaking is Werner Herzog.
Who was in Mandalorian?
That's right.
And he acts. He acts. He directs. He does documentaries. He's a triple threat.
Yeah. I mean, Peter Jackson has done pretty well doing like documentaries and epics. I mean, They Shall Not Grow Old is the greatest war documentary I've seen in a long time. But it's just like, yeah, it's so. I just want us to, like, can we get back to, it's not about like what race or gender or where the fuck you come from. Can you fucking direct a movie? Do you have a competent lens of like, or an artistic lens like of how you want to do things? And I don't know what the audition process is for hiring a director, but like I almost wonder if I know, like, when it comes to bring it back to like a little bit of a sports analogy, is when managers or general managers are hired for a team, they go through this process like, okay, what is what is wrong with our team, and how can you take our team and make it a winner? And they have to come up with, like, they have to have like some sort of plan of like what they would do and be competent about it. Or like, in some cases, like if you've had a body of work, it's like, listen, I'm this type of director, and I see with this film, what I want to do is like, and maybe you even have like a short storyboard. You have a direction that you want to go with it, and hey, like, this looks like it could be pretty good. And not every, even like a director who's competent, who has a good vision, maybe that vision doesn't necessarily hit it everybody, and like, it not every film is successful. That doesn't mean every film is, every unsuccessful financial film is bad, because there's been plenty of films that have come back around and, found their audience and been successful. But in the case of like these big franchises, it should be like, where like, what is your where do you what are you going to do with this franchise?
Yeah,
Because
what's your vision?
there's a fan base here.
What story are you trying to tell?
And I'm not asking them to do the same. I don't want them to create the original Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back, but I also want you to, like, care about stories within this, and like, don't just make your film like you are making a Star Wars film. There's a difference there. This isn't your independent project where you want to, like, shit on men or whatever. It's like, that's not what we're doing here. We are trying to make a film that is entertaining and caters to everybody,
or at least the
right?
biggest portion of the public as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's not what's happening anymore. And it's just like, oh no, we want to make sure that we represent, like,
Yeah, the blind
well,
Inuits, the blind amputated Inuits.
yeah. It's just, I hate this, and I honestly, I'm so happy that She-Hulk is going away. The Marvels was unsuccessful. All these, like, I'm telling you, the franchise is gonna die soon.
I mean,
I
arguably
think
it is
we
already
are.
dead. But again, like, we're dealing with
It,
the
but as
problem
far, but
is we're dealing with zealots.
they're trying to Frankenstein this thing to life, and it's not working.
Right. But again, I argue that it doesn't matter that if they lose money, because we're dealing with something much more dangerous, and that's zealots. They don't care. They don't
Yeah.
care about
You're-
losing the money. I mean, so much so that the freaking Disney board, they're not even afraid of their own shareholders. Like, they
No, they don't.
cashed out and gave them a dividend of 30 cents. All right,
I know.
that's how little uh that's how little Bob Iger and, like, the BlackRock investors, or whatever, that make up the majority of the shareholders on the Disney board. That's how little that they are afraid of repercussions. All right, they're true zealots. They're fanatics to the message, and so that's why they don't care. They don't care that that Marvel is a dying that is they're tanking the Marvel brand, or they're tanking the Star Wars brand, or hell, they're even tanking the Disney brand. I mean, with the like all of, like, the race swapping stuff with, like, their live action. Um, the park attendance is significantly the park attendance has significantly dropped, especially with their diversity and inclusion practices. You have the fucking bearded man at the Bippity Boppity Boutique, in Disneyland. You have the guy with who's all has the makeup on. It's like and telling little girls like, oh, aren't you lovely? Oh, let's try this branded Disney shirt on and blah blah blah. They don't care. They
Yeah,
don't care. These are fanatics.
don't care.
All right, and there's no reasoning with fanatics. All
Nope.
right, it's not about profits anymore. It's about the message.
The
The
message.
Yeah. Shout out to the.
But yeah, yeah. But yeah, I hate what's going on, man. But I'm really happy that some of these shows are dying, and maybe like we're gonna get to a point where all this just goes away. Maybe it will, but
I mean, at this point, I would say that the entire system has to collapse before anything good comes back, or anyone's allowed to build something up better. That's better.
yeah.
That's yeah. I mean, no, I don't mean to sound like a pessimist, but I don't see a righting of the ship.
Well, then we'll just blow
I
up the
mean, yeah,
ship.
just based on what I'm like the actions that we're seeing that these companies these institutions unto themselves are no longer driven by profits. They'll put out a shitty movie, they'll put out a shitty TV show, they'll put out a shitty merchandise in the name of the message.
Yeah.
How you fix that, I don't know. Other than just complete implosion.
I think the best thing, the only thing that we can do right now is to highlight how much waste is happening. Like look at how much money these people are wasting. Laugh at because no one's watching these movies. No one's watching this. For the most part. I mean, not like nobody, but to the point where they're not successful.
Let's rephrase. Normies are no longer watching.
The majority of people are not watching.
Yeah, that's why I qualify normies. The normies being the vast majority of the population. They too have become tired of the message.
Right. Even people who are like, yeah, they probably would not agree with you and me because we're definitely more radical maybe in the other direction, but like people who are just like really dead center or like even like on like more like moderate left,
maybe
even they don't like
one integer left or right of center.
Right. And they hate this shit. And they're usually pretty tolerant of most things.
That's why I call the vast majority. I categorize them as normies. Yeah, even they're sick of it. They're tired of it.
It's just like no, I'm not gonna go watch that. I think I'm gonna.
I'm gonna pass.
Just yeah. And the thing that what sucks is that hurts movie theaters because no one wants to go see those movies, and you're starting to see. I've actually started to notice that more theaters are doing more revival nights and stuff like that, where they're going back and hey, we're gonna show these old movies. We'll do a double feature or something like that, and those are getting sold out and much more popular than whatever's new coming out. I mean, outside of a few things, I mean, there's still been some successes and whatnot, but it just we're in a state of affairs where you get these zealots who are they're ruining things, and people are tired of it. No one wants to go see these. They don't want to go see that, and I don't know. I don't know what's gonna. I don't know what's gonna come of it. I know these zealots are gonna try to Frankenstein this thing to life, but I think we need to keep highlighting how much waste that they're creating, and keep laughing at them, keep
Just pointing out the
highlighting their
ridiculousness.
failures. Yeah, keep highlighting their failure, and don't go see their crap. If your theater is showing a double feature of maybe some like old monster movies, or like a 70s grindhouse night or whatever, go watch that instead. Or go to your kind of more like independent theater, like go to the New Beverly, or go to Old Town Music Hall, and like go and watch the movies that are going on there, the great classics that were made to be great, and they are great. Go watch those movies instead. Like, don't, and try something different.
Indeed. Well, if there isn't anything else, I guess we can move on to the movie review for tonight.
Let's
Alright.
do it. I'm so excited to talk about this
Alright,
with you.
I'll hit everybody with the synopsis, and we'll get going. Hit everyone with the synopsis, and we'll get going. Just to remind you, tonight for Plot Twist month, tonight we'll be reviewing Freaks from 1932, directed by Todd Browning. When trapeze artist Cleopatra learns that circus midget Hans has an inheritance, she marries the lovesick, diminutive performer, all the while planning to steal his fortune and run off with her lover, strongman Hercules. When Hans's friends and fellow performers discover what is going on, they band together and carry out a brutal revenge that leaves Hercules and Cleopatra knowing what it truly means to be a, quote, freak, end quote.
Well, okay, so this was directed and I think produced by Todd Browning, who did Dracula. And he, after the success of Dracula, was given a project. He could do any project he wanted.
Oh, yeah, so essentially got to go.
And yeah, this is the one that he wanted to do. And the other notorious thing about this film was that this is one of the catalysts towards creating the Hays Code, because this is pre-code 30s films, where like there were the topics that were being put on display were. I actually really like this era a lot because they're dealing with really interesting subjects, like the 30s version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, this film. There's several other great films from the 30s that are just dealing with crazy topics and would be kind of in league with maybe some of more of our avant-garde countercultural 70s films, or the indie films of like the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, this is one of the films that was a big starting point to we need the Hays Code, and the same people who tried to put in that got prohibition passed, that got all the suffragette movement kind of going. These are the same type of people who were putting the kibosh on this era of films, no, it's so disturbing and terrible and blah blah blah, and not realizing what this movie actually probably stood for, which was something more prominent. But other than that, had you seen this film before? Had you heard about it? Did you? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I knew about this movie, but I never watched it. Of course, this movie is the originator of like the widely homaged and used Gabagoo, One of Us chants.
Yeah, and the it's funny because I've also heard like a lot of like quote unquote like kind of conservative commentators like kind of hating on this movie. It's like, oh, look how terrible it was before like we had censorship in movies, and it's like you clearly did not watch this movie. Like you saw this like one scene and like you didn't understand the context like of like the build up to this scene and like what they're doing. Because like if you're just watching that scene, it looks stupid, but there's so much going on to build up to that scene where it's like this is a pinnacle scene, uh, and it makes a
Yeah, I
lot of sense. And
mean,
it's not
in a
it's
lot of
not
ways, that scene, the wedding feast scene, where they start doing the chant, that's actually the turning point of the entire movie.
yeah.
A lot of new or modern movies, they have they have a pretty standard structure of like, the action doesn't start until like 30 minutes in, but in this movie, it doesn't happen until well towards the latter third of the movie. And this is the scene,
Yeah,
and
and
that scene is the point where that's where like the real movie begins.
so here's the other crazy thing about this movie. This was originally a 90-minute film. This was an hour and a half film that was without his permission cut down to 64 minutes, and unfortunately the original like 90-minute cut no longer exists. It's
Right.
just gone. So the version that we're watching, that like hour and 4 minute or whatever version that we have, and that's why like, there's definitely some places where there seems to be some cuts that are very jarring, and it's like I wonder what they cut out that I think would have made it even more, maybe flush out a few things a little bit more. But man, this is a powerful fucking
Yeah.
film. And not that you're a freak, Andy, but like I know there's a lot. Obviously this has a lot of people with disabilities and
Mhm.
stuff like that in the film. Did that speak to you at
Yeah, I
all?
mean, in school, uh, not for a class, we had
Did people start doing like the wedding feast chants, like one of us, one? Did they do that
no,
to
no,
you?
no, no. But it might have been a history class. But I did this. I did a presentation on the history of carnival performers, particularly freaks, and like the
Oh yeah, okay.
and the photographic tradition of those freaks. Um, and so yeah, it was I don't remember. It wasn't even that long ago. I can't remember too much, but I remember, yeah, it's a lot of people. Yeah, of course, a lot of people look down on people born with with birth defects and genetic anomalies and things like that, and they're relegated to being circus performers. But in a lot of ways, they were made rich off of their performances. Yeah, you had like certain instances where they're being taken advantage of by like the leader of like the circus or whatever, taking more money from them than they ought to. But a lot of the freaks, as they were, they actually lived very comfortable lives. I mean, to the point of like the originators of like this of the trope of the Siamese twins, uh, Aang and Chang, I believe, were their names. They went on to uh, amassing such a fortune that they were actually able to buy a plantation in the South. Yeah,
Jesus
and
Christ.
I think they actually owned slaves.
God
Yeah,
damn.
and between them, they had like something like 20 or 20 or 15, like 15 to 20 kids.
Fucking God. It's funny. One of the articles I read about this too is like this is a film that showcased one where people who like obviously for the lack of better term like a normie were interacting with disabled and handicapped performers and like befriending them and like treating them with respect outside of like our villains, which are also able-bodied. Like the able-bodied people and two of the able-bodied people in this film are the evil villains of the film. They're the antagonists, Cleopatra and Hercules, who are trying to use Hans to they know that Hans has a lot of money. I also find it funny that like the one of the quote unquote freaks is this just kind of womanizing kind of person, right? Where he's just like he is a Lothario that's like he's engaged to be married to the other diminutive lady, but then pretty much is essentially fucks her over so that he can get with Cleopatra. Is like, oh, she's so beautiful and like and
yeah, I mean it's very interesting,
it's
like as because initially he was caught, and he like made all every protestation saying like, oh, I may be looking at her, but I only have eyes for you, and there's nothing that can get between me and you, my lovely.
Dude, he's a Lothario. He's just a mixed Lothario. It's awesome. And like, dude, I think that's fucking awesome that they like showed that. And that's almost his downfall because it turns out that like she is a manipulative. Cleopatra is one of the most manipulative bitches in film history. And like we know that she is evil, but like but you get caught in that like that web of there's guys that get caught in that web and they can't see it. Everyone else sees it, but not them. And it just so happens that he is massively wealthy. And I think that might speak to what you're talking about where some of these performers became incredibly like they made a lot of money. And I mean, in this case, Hans inherited his wealth, but still, I mean, the guy had like this giant mansion at the end of the film. But it's this like really interesting thing, like because I think the initial problem with the film was that people were like they were disgusted by the portrayal of these quote unquote freaks, and we've also had people who say like, oh well, you're exploiting them. It's like that is not what is happening in this film. There's to me this is an anti-exploitation film. It is humanizing.
No, exactly. It's like they're the people, the critics who would say like, oh, you're exploiting people. You're removing all agency from these people. Like, do you think that they didn't have a choice to be in this movie? Like, of course not. They could have said like, no, fuck you. Fuck you. I'm not gonna parade myself, for the amusement of strangers.
Yeah, they wanted to be in the film, and they were performers. That's the other thing is like what people don't realize is that these guys were performers well before they went into the film. They're like, and when there was a casting call for people who were, Todd Browning's like casting director, went around to the carnival circuit all across the United States, and they actually had to turn people down because we got what we wanted, and they wanted to be in the film, and some of them were like had already been in film, like Hans and like his fiance who actually were related. They were brother. Right. They had already been on like the vaudeville and film circuit. They have done films together already before. So now what was kind of shitty was that some of the more like the normal freaks like Hans and what was her character's name? Was it Greta or
Frida.
Frida? Frida, yeah, Frida. They were there was no problem with them, but like some of the more like kind of like real like the guy who had like no fucking legs and like Mr. Torso and stuff like that, they were actually not allowed into like the commissary at the studio. Like I think it was MGM's studio lot and all that. Like they kind of kept some of the more freakish looking
Right.
people kind of away from everything else because there was this is like these are the articles I read. I don't know if this was
Right.
true or not, but like yeah, they kind of like kept them segregated from more of the regular cast. And they weren't allowed in certain parts of the set, which is probably true, but like like I said, I can't
Right.
corroborate that. Um, but as far as the movie goes, like these guys had been performers in the vaudeville circuit, if not in film already, and they were treated with like as far as like the script was, they were treated with dignity and respect. Like, and they went out of Todd Browning went out of his way to show that these people are not just they're not freaks, they're humans, and they just they have disabilities and but they deserve our respect, and they were shown respect by like the able-bodied characters that were with them outside of our main villains. So with all, especially today, with all the talk of representation and oh, we need to treat people better, it's like this is a film that gave these guys agency.
Mm-hmm.
It was happening in 1932 in this film right here. So I never want to hear again like, oh, we're treating people with, let people with disabilities and all this stuff with like disrespect. I'm sure that still happens, but like we had a film over 90 years ago that did this like in spades. I'm like, I was blown away by like how like, this is a great film. And honestly, like, and seeing the freaks get like revenge on Cleopatra and Hercules. Oh man, that was such a great scene, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really it's yeah. To your point about them having this movie like 90 years ago, and everyone now crying about representation or whatever. It's funny that the representation there's the people that get the representation even with like like physical disabilities, they're still perceived relatively as able-bodied. Like a blind person or a deaf person or um, an amputee. And like, but then they still have like a prosthetic leg, and they walk around like they walk around like like nothing is wrong with them.
Oh, like Christian
Yeah, like
Bale
Christian Bale.
when he playoff.
I forget. Yeah, he went. Yeah, he went back in time and became fought in the Civil War and got shot and got his leg removed to play the part. Um,
You're right.
but yeah, but then but in this movie you had like legitimate representation of disabled people. I mean, you had like the human torso guy who literally was like rolling around like a little turd. He happened to be black too, which made that extra which made it extra funny to me.
Crazy.
Which made it extra funny to me.
Yeah.
But then, like he was still, even without arms and legs, he lit a fucking cigarette but with his mouth by himself.
Yeah.
And then the lady with no arms who was like feeding herself and drinking tea and everything with just her feet. But yeah, you had like, but again,
There was two of those.
but again, you had actual representation of like extremely disabled people, not like kind of like these. I mean, I hate to use their own words against them, but like these passable like disabled people. where it's like, oh, you're blind, but you still have all your appendages and such, or you're deaf, but again, you still have all your appendages and stuff. But it's not like this to this extreme level. Like you never see someone like me, out there where it's like yeah, you every once and again you'll have like even like just recently, just today I watched the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, and like Kurt Connors, the character who lost his arm, like but that was a
Yeah.
guy who in actuality still has his arms.
Right. Exactly. It wasn't like some guy that didn't have his arm
Exactly.
and just was playing
Right.
that role. Right. Yeah.
And so yeah, everyone complains about like representation. So all right, then why don't you hire a guy who didn't actually have an arm, or why didn't have a guy, have someone who doesn't even have like the lower half of their body, like that guy who's like who's like walking around on his hands,
Literally
literally
walking on
walking
his
on his hands.
hands. And he was a prominent character in the film. Just same with like the guy who had he had like this weird like spinal thing, like where he's not like a midget, but like because like
Yeah, he
his
had an
bones didn't like.
extreme like dwarfism, uh, with like probably like complex I forget what's aproplasia or something.
So yeah, I forget what the
Yeah, but
actual
it's like
like
it's an extreme case of dwarfism that like affects like even like the bones. It's different from like what Hans and Frida had. They were still dwarves, but they were like more or less proportional.
yeah. And he was like one of like the main guy who like he was essentially like he saw what was going on and he was like, oh, I see what's going on here, and he was kind of like the spy for like the rest of
The movie,
like
yeah.
the midgets and stuff, the rest of like
Yeah.
the freaks. He was kind of like the main, kind of the leader
Yeah.
of the freaks. And it's just like, man, this movie is amazing. And I, to be honest, like when I chose this film, I chose it because the initial idea was like, movies that are not what they seem. And when people think of this movie, oh, we're exploiting people with disabilities and stuff like that. That is not what is happening in this film at all. But I was also like, oh, I wonder if Andy might be like offended that I chose this film. Yeah, but I'm kind of glad that you're not. It's that you kind of you saw what I saw with this film.
If you thought that I was gonna be offended, then are you really my friend?
Well, I was like, maybe did I fuck up a little bit? Like maybe this is the movie that's like Andy's like, I'm done. Our friendship's over. The podcast is over.
I go full Greta Thunberg. How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you, sir?
Yeah, no, of course.
And this is where like I am done with the people like, oh, we never, where people keep like, oh, it's the first time this has ever been done in film, and like we need to like represent more. We haven't done enough, and it's like, fuck you. It's been done like 90 fucking years ago, but because of the same type of people who wanted to kind of mess with the film industry or mess with like stuff that was going on, because you're the racist was it the what's the term that I'm thinking about, the you wanted kind of what's the term I'm thinking about? Hold on one second, I have it here. This one I actually did write down. Let me check my notes here. It was the idea of essentially people who like wanted there to be like they were a big proponent of like eugenics and stuff like that those are the same type of people who are now
Wow.
today wanting to have like ultra representation, and we need to have like people with such disability playing disabled parts and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, well, you're the same type of people who shit on Freaks back in the 30s because it was too real for you. And so I'm tired of like, oh, this is the first time it's been done. We need to do this and that. It's like, it's already been done. It's and you kind of you crapped on the film before, so why should I believe you now? And this is much more real than like I think a lot of the we have an actual person with
some sort of disability.
yeah, whatever disability, name your disability, playing this part now, and it's like where you're kind of, it doesn't feel as genuine as like this one was. Like, I mean, this really shoves it in your face. And I think that's why it was so reviled back in 1932.
Yeah.
Because people.
I'll continue.
Yeah, it's like, and I think that's like why, like, I don't think you could. I was saying, it's like, could this film be remade today? And I don't think that they would do it because it's just too real.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they actually did it, but I think they did do a remake of this movie. But again, they used like a lot. I think a lot of it was able-bodied. Like there's like that one image of what's that one actress's name? She's fairly well known, but she was they made her look like one of the pinheads.
Oh boy.
Let me see.
I didn't know that there was a potential remake of this.
Let me do a quick search here. Who is it?
Because I know there's several shows or like movies that have like freaks in the title, but
God, what's that one actress's name? She's an older, like British actress.
Helen Mirren. Angela Lansbury.
No. Yeah, she's like, I don't know why it's 2007.
But yeah, it's just I just don't see this being a film that could be remade. One, I think it's too real, and
Well, yeah.
Not only are
yeah, keep going.
Yeah, because the thing about this film is that, while yes, there are people that are making fun of the freaks, we don't like them. They're not. They are the villains of the film, and in reality, like, the heroes of the film are the freaks, because they take out the people that are trying to exploit them and like make fun of them. They are that have the people who are shitting on them, which is Cleopatra and Hercules. I think they kill Hercules, and they make Cleopatra into a freak. Just so the thing is, she did not take the cup at the wedding feast of where they are trying to make. They are symbolically making her one of them because they're marrying. She is marrying one of them, and like they're accepting her into the group because of that. But when she rejects them and like kind of humiliates them and tries to kill one of their own, they make her into one of them, and to making her into this like weird chicken lady,
actually,
which is like, how the fuck did they do that?
that was pretty shocking. I was legitimately shocked by that.
Oh, okay. I was kind of curious. I was like, did you like that like at all? Like, were you shocked by that?
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Were they
absolutely, of course. You know.
Yeah, they transformed her into a freak. Like she became one of them.
Right. I mean, like initially, yeah, because initially they were, they're loving on her because she was loving, that she was, seemingly, loving one of their own, and so by that virtue, they were accepting her as one of the, and they in turn were, doing the, they were in turn loving on her and accepting her as one of their own, but like because of the mentality back then, you know, she couldn't, she couldn't stand it, and so like that's and that's why she had like such a revulsion to them things like, oh, like, oh, you can, like, how dare you consider me one of you. But
Yeah.
and also this movie does a great job is like, it gives them agency, like, that they're not taking, this slight laying down, and like they exact their revenge, and I mean in a very brutal way. They cut this woman's legs off. They deform her beyond recognition, and like and damage her psyche so badly that she's now relegated to being, one of these freaks that she despised. And just like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like at the end, you see the final shot of Cleopatra, in her mutilated state, and it's just like it's so jarring because like, yeah, she's all of the things, all of the people that she slighted, like, the half man, the guy that walked on his hands, the chicken man.
The chicken, yeah, exactly. She kind of became like an amalgamation of all the
Exactly.
freaks.
And I mean, when I saw that, I was legitimately like shocked. I was like, oh my god.
It's a fucking fantastic. It's such a, like this, you know, ironic ending. It's like, wow, she, instead of becoming a symbolic version, a symbolic a friend of the freaks, becoming one of them, they made her into one of them because she tried to attack one of them. Though, one quick, before we kind of like get into our rating, what did you think of how the finish of? Well, I did like Frozo. Was it the Frozo, the two other normies that are the good normies? Actually, well, there's three because you have that one lady who's caring for like the pinheads and like all the other like freaks, and like it's like they're my children. Like we were just trying to. I wanted to take them out into the sunshine and like make sure that they're taken care of. And the one guy was shooting. It's like, get off our property, blah blah blah. It's like, and it's like, oh, I didn't understand. I didn't realize. It's okay. You guys hang out here. You guys have fun. It's okay. And and I thought that was like kind of a really nice touch that they threw in. It's like, see, this is already, you're seeing like the dignity that's being shown to the freaks, like right at the beginning of the film. And then you also have our other two normies, Frozo the clown and what the hell was her name?
Venus.
Venus, yes. And Venus, who end up falling in love with each other, but they are friends to Hans and Frida and like all of them. And honestly, Frozo is like super. He is one of like the nicest people. Like he just seems like he likes everybody, and he's just so super kind. Actually, like the other one I wanted to talk about too was so you have the conjoined twins, Violet and What the hell is her sister's
Violet
name?
and Daisy.
Daisy. Dude, so quick tangent. Like we Cards Against Humanity is like a game that like you and I have played, and like I play that. We play that with like a bunch of friends and stuff like that. My wife made there's some like make your own Cards Against Humanity like blank cards that we made. And so like, my wife created a automatic threesome card. It's like sex with conjoined twins. And that has but here's the thing though. You have conjoined twins in this film who have sexual agency, and like they both have different sexual lives, and they're getting married, and like they're well, although Violet I think is married to the guy who stutters, but he's able-bodied, and then the other one is getting married to another able-bodied person, and it's that's just another thing like where they're not getting married to a freak. They're getting married to like what would be considered a normal person. And that normal person loves them unconditionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is like, and you kind of talked about it when we started talking about this, where, yeah, these conjoined twins made like all this money based on the circus, and bought a plantation and owned slaves, and had many children.
Oh.
So I just like.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
So it's and yeah, it's just I just this movie is amazing, and I think it like spits in the face of like all the stuff that we were talking about in our last segment, of like, oh, we need to put a chicken in and make it gay, like all that version of representation. This is real representation, and it puts a mirror to society. It's like that, like, hey, you can either accept these people and like treat them like humans, or see what happens. And there's consequences for the people that don't treat them with dignity.
Absolutely. Okay, I finally figured it out. It's
yeah.
they didn't make a movie, but American Horror Story took the movie Freak and applied it to that season of American Horror Story. So there again, there is an actress that does like is made up to look like one of the Pinhead girls.
Oh, yeah. Wow, okay.
Again, but she's a normie actress, done up to look like one of the original Pinhead girls from the movie.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this is I honestly, like, I have nothing else to say about the film, but I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah, I think it's just so the reason we're doing like, it's not just a plot twist, but it's like movies that you wouldn't that are not what you think. And I think when people think about Freaks, they're thinking about like it being like an exploitative film that is just kind of shitting on people with disabilities, or quote unquote freaks. That is not what this film does at all. In fact, I think it empowers them.
Right,
and that's what makes this
in a very legitimate way, not just like kind of the pandering. It's like, oh, they're empowered or whatever, but they actually give them agency, and like they are able to act as their own Avengers, as a way of putting it. Like, they didn't just take the insult from Cleopatra or Hercules. They planned out and enacted their revenge. And then like no normal person helped them with it.
Yeah, exactly. This movie is awesome. It's so good.
All right.
Well, let's unless there's anything else to be said,
Yeah,
should
let's
we
give
rate
our
it?
ratings and we'll wrap it up. Why don't you start us off?
You want to start
Yeah, you
off?
start.
You know, I think I'm gonna give this 5 stars, man. I really think that this is a hidden gem of a film. This was Todd Browning was made famous by Dracula, pretty much. Like, I mean, that's where when you think of his name, you think of Dracula. I mean, he did a bunch of other stuff before
Right.
Dracula, but this is his pet project. He really liked this film. He had actually been working on this film or trying to get this film made like 5 or 6 years before this, before Dracula was, and like finally got to. It was through a combination of things that allowed him to get this film made. The popularity of Dracula, they essentially gave him carte blanche to direct whatever he wanted to, and I think the guy who played Hans was a big proponent. Like, hey, there's this story, like, because this is based off of an actual like short story or something like that someone wrote, or an article that somebody wrote, and they bought the rights to it. And he's like, yeah, we should make a movie out of this. And so it was like the producer, the guy who played Hans, and Todd Browning kind of working together to make this thing happen, and it did. And I'm really glad that it exists. I think it's a significant historical film. Um, I think it ruffled all the right feathers. Uh, and yeah, this is a when people think about like, oh, we need to have representation, man. We shouldn't be exploiting people and all. It's like this is what this film does in spades, and it's not just like some fake bullshit about it. It's so good. And these are all real like they're real people with real disabilities that you can't. They're not faking that at all. And the fact that and uh, there were like there was talks of getting like real big name actors for this film, but Todd Browning is like, no, we're gonna get like more lesser known actors that nobody knows about, and I think it works because I think like getting a an actress like Myrna Loy who is gonna play Cleopatra, and I think they were gonna get. There's no like famous like kind of like heavy that they were gonna have play Hercules that had been in like a bunch of stuff, and it would have been too distracting. It wouldn't have worked. So I'm glad that they got like nobodies that kind of paired with the
Right.
freaks, and it just
Right,
it just
because yeah, if
works.
they
And
did
I'm
get big names, it would detract from the freaks because it's like
hmm
because if you had big names, you'd just be counting the minutes like, oh, when do we get to see such and such again?
exactly, especially back in that day because it wasn't about like, oh, what type of character is this guy playing today. No, you went to go see Myrna Loy. You went to go see Fay
Exactly.
Ray. You went to go see Humphrey Bogart. That was what you went to go see. And they were the same person, but like what movie you went to go see them, not necessarily like what character they played.
Right.
And so
I mean,
going
it was
with
kind
no
of
name
So in a
actors,
way, it was kind of like the Seth Rogen school of acting.
yeah,
Where
yeah,
it's like, or the idea of it's just like, um, despite the character they're playing, they're still themselves.
yeah. There's no method acting back in
Right.
1932. So.
All right.
And I kind of wish to see like I wish we had like the hour and a half version. I think that there was more to be said. Maybe it would have been worse. Maybe it would have been better. Who knows? Um, and maybe I don't know if there's some like version of the original screenplay that is available at somewhere. But that would be interesting to see like what they had intended to put out like for the entirety of the movie. But yeah, I'm gonna give this a 5 stars. I think this is a great movie.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I'm coming in just under you, and I'm giving this a 4 star. Um, don't get me wrong, this is a great movie, and I would recommend it to everyone. But you know, because of again, I'm the technical guy, so but because of like technical issue, I mean, I get it. It wasn't the director's intention, but because of like
The
yeah,
cuts are
cuts are
jarring.
jarring, and
Yeah.
because of how it kind of how it makes it disjointed, it does kind of detract a little bit from the movie. Not totally, but just a little bit, just enough to be noticeable. Um,
Yeah.
so again, I'm not. So I'm reviewing, what we got, not what could have been. So I'm sure if the other 30 minutes were left in the movie, I love this movie. I'd likely give it a 5. But because of what we got, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah. You would watch, but you would
Oh yeah,
watch it
yeah,
again.
absolutely.
I imagine.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, yeah, I was really that final scene where we see the wrath of the freaks, like what they wrought. It's like I was legitimately taken aback. I was like, holy shit. I think I
Yeah.
literally said holy shit.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy. It's amazing. Um, yeah, I think that's a great review for you, Andy. Like I really wasn't sure what you were gonna think about this.
Yeah, I mean, plus like this, like just like the cultural significance as well. I mean, in its time, it wasn't appreciated, but now, there's people. I mean, it's particularly the whole, the
It
Gabagoo
took
chant.
it took
It's so
it
it's the anthem of anyone who beats, who marches to the beat of their own drummer, and like someone who
yeah.
and like and
It
someone
took,
you know who vibes with you, as the kids would say nowadays. Like they become part of your tribe, and that you who hasn't, when they found like their best friend or someone that they have a rapport with. Don't think of that scene where it's like Gabagoo, we accept you, one of us. You know, yeah.
one of us. Yeah.
So
And it legitimately took um 30 years for this film to find its audience because it was reviled for that long, and it was actually like banned in other countries until many years later. Um, and the revival in the 60s. That's when this film became started to become like big again in the United States, and they actually like put it through the Venice film circuit in the 60s, and it started like kind of come to prominence like, oh, this is a classic, this is a great film, and it found its
indeed.
audience and has been restored. And I don't know, like, did you watch it on
Yeah, I did.
Tubi?
It was the only place you could find it.
Yeah, that's the restored cut. It
Mm.
looks amazing. They did a great job because it is on Criterion. There is a Criterion release of Freaks. It's a Todd Browning triple feature, and yeah, it's restored, and I want to get it so I can check out all the extras that are on there talking about Freaks and some of those other movies. But yeah, it was a great cut of the film. It looks good. And it's like it's only an
Yeah,
hour. You're not gonna like it's not like you're gonna be wasting
yeah. It's
a
not an
whole
epic.
afternoon.
It's an hour and you're done.
Yeah, most of those like pre-code 30s horror films are you're gonna spend about an hour, at best. So it's not much of an investment on time. All right, so I give it a 5. Andy, you give it a 4. Great. I think we both recommend it. Yeah, awesome film.
Indeed. All right, folks. There you have it. That's our. Yeah, Rob kind of wrapped it up for me. But yeah, that's our review for Freaks from 1932. Definitely a movie to watch. Again, Rob gives it a 5. I give it a 4. Do yourself a favor and watch it. Yeah, we kind of spoiled it, but it's a 90-year-old movie, so spoiler alerts don't apply.
Yeah, exactly, right?
All right, folks. That'll bring us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Always.
If you enjoyed our stream, don't forget to check out the library of the content that we have. The Circular Jerks main podcast, old episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter or X, and Letterboxd @PodcastCOJ, and Instagram @Circular Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good one.